Welcome to Ring Talk, the weekly Goodwin boxing show with myself, Martin Theobald, and with me, Steve Goodwin. How are you, Steve?
I'm all good, mate. A big result from the week was your son's first round demolition job as an amateur. Hot news.
Yeah, it was a demolition job as well. It was a first round stoppage on his debut. Yes, a super proud dad moment. Like everybody in my phone book has been sent the video of him setting
Yeah,
about some poor lad up in Leicester. Yeah, so you were there, as in you were there with Josh when he was an amateur. That
yeah.
feeling, that first fight, I had no idea, and it's really hard. You don't know, is
It's
your
it.
son up to the job or not? Is he going to freeze? Is it all going to get on top of him?
I agree.
Um, and then there was a moment about 10 minutes before he was due to go on where I just stood chatting to him and he started sort of shadow boxing. I thought, you're ready. You're really ready. Like, he was so sharp, so focused. He's 15 years old and there were like 400 people there at this event. I thought, he didn't freeze at all. He did an
Well,
absolute job on this lad.
he's a lot better than his dad. And I've
100%.
and I've seen his dad box.
Yeah, he'd batter me now. We spar in the garden and he'd batter me. He'd take it serious. He's about my size as well. Bloody hell.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he looked decent. He really looked decent. I thought he looked very good.
Yeah. So yeah, he's problem is we've got a balance now between GCSEs this year and his focus upon boxing. But yeah,
Yeah,
he super proud dad moment and
exactly.
over that fear of like, oh my God, I slept worse than he did the night before. He slept sound. I was
I bet. I bet.
nervous as it comes. But
I bet. No, well done to Oscar.
yeah, wicked. I shall send it on to him. But yeah, so this week in the world of Goodwin boxing, in the world of boxing, it's the biggest fight card of the year, probably. Box Mania,
Exactly.
not
Exactly.
Saudi Arabia. Bollocks to Saudi Arabia. It's Box Mania down at York Hall, biggest fight card of the year. Let's get into it.
Well, let's just start off with 16 fighters boxing, only one fighter of the 16 with a negative record. Have
Yeah,
you ever seen that on a show in a long, long time? Probably not.
no, no, and even those that have got more losses than the others in their records at fighting.
That's only
uh,
It's only Dylan Courtney. He's the only one.
Yeah, but I mean, sorry, the ones that are still they got positive records but a few losses. They're in really good fights, like
Yeah,
Matthew King against Denis Denikaev.
yeah,
That's a hell of a fight. Matthew's had a few losses, but he's in that.
yeah. Exactly. I know it's fight after fight of that you can make a call. You can make a call for each side of the fence, starting literally all the way through the card. After it's great. It's a great card. It's a great card.
Yeah, we're always guilty of not coming on to how people can get there, what time, etc., until the end. So, in case anybody's stupid enough to turn off before we get to the end, give people timings, is where they can get tickets if there
So
are
it's
tickets.
5 o'clock doors. So don't be first bout 6 o'clock. First title bout about 6:45. That's where the title bouts start.
Then it'll just run through for the entire evening.
And it runs through, and it could finish as late as 11:30 if they all went the distance. So we don't know. So it's gonna be a long night, but thrills and spills, titles, 50-50s, everything. You just don't see. I said today, you get promoters writing down, look at my card full of 50-50s, and you look there and there's two of them. There's two 50-50s and the rest are prospect journeyman. When we got that, we tell people what we got. But you see people claiming this sort of thing when it's not real. This is real. This is real, real, real. And if people are going to watch a show, go and watch live boxing at York Hall. This is a show to go to without a shadow of a doubt.
100%. Go to Goodwin Boxing for any available tickets that there are, but it won't, like, genuinely, from what you've said, there aren't many.
There's a few. There's about, literally, as we sit here today, 5 or 6 ringside left and some unreserves. There'll probably be a few unreserves at the door for those that get there early, I'd imagine. But it's pretty much sold out.
Yeah, yeah. And now we're going to go on to why it's pretty much sold out, because it's probably the best small hall boxing card of the year. We've got probably the best fight happening in Saudi Arabia. We'll give them that one. I think they can claim probably for the weekend they might have the best fight, but the best card is happening at York Hall. So we're going to come on to it. So we'll kick it off with the one fighter on there who does have a negative record. So Taiwo Mosuro going into his third fight against Dylan Courtney. Dylan may have a negative record. He's not a negative fighter. It's worth noting.
And what you've got to say is he lost. I think his last fight he lost by a point. He tries. He really gives it his all. That will be a competitive fight. That's not a cover-up journeyman. Again, it's a proper fight for Taiwo Mosuro. A proper fight. So even that fight is a proper fight. So even that kicks off the card at 6. Taiwo, I think, is really supremely talented, but Dylan will really give him the first real test of his career, and we'll see whether he's up to it. Dylan Courtney is a really underrated fighter. He's a really decent fighter. Taiwo's got it up. If he's not on top of his game, Dylan could cause an upset, and Dylan's going to win. So, but I think Taiwo Mosuro, I think he's a very good talent. He's raw, but he's a supreme talent. But it's going to be a great fight. I mean, I'll be glued to that fight as well, to be honest. It's not just the whole of the title fights.
Yeah. Sher going into his 7th fight against a debutant.
Right, yeah. Now, the debutant's a top amateur, Jordan Harding, trained by Liam Conroy. Nobody wanted to fight him. Sher says, well, look, I've got to take these kids that are going to come out aggressively because I want to move on to titles. So full credit for Sher to doing that. Jordan's a handful. It's going to be a good fight. And Sher Khan's doing a 6-rounder. And he doesn't really want to fight the traditional journeyman. We did have a journeyman, but the journeyman pulled out and he's had to come up in weight to fight Jordan Harding. Good little fight. Once again, fight well worth watching.
Good on him. And it's worth noting as well, the debutant's coming in at 6 rounds.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter.
Tells you that he can fight because they wouldn't be allowed normally to step in on their debut at 6 rounds. No. The Albanian sensation.
Denis Ballazhi fights Manoj Kumar. Kumar's 3-2. Denis is progressing nicely. We're trying to develop him slowly, but Kumar is his first opponent with a positive record. But looking forward, he is second to last on the card. You're going to get a lot of Albanians and lots of flags and lots of singing and everything else that you get with a Denis Ballazhi fight. Really worth watching. But that, again, he's stepping up with somebody who's coming to be adventurous and try to win. So it's going to be a good fight.
And if you haven't been to a Denis Ballazhi fight, I've been to several of them now. His support is mad. The number of them, the volume they make, the flags they bring, the atmosphere they build, all of it is great fun. Secondly, keep an eye out ringside down next to Steve because his advisor will be there. His man, I don't know what his official title is.
The advisor, Aldo. Yeah, Aldo.
Yeah, he's as active as anything you'll see in the ring as well. He's great fun to watch.
Remember, but he's a really good fighter as well. As well as having all of that, he's a proper fighter. And he's going to go far. For sure.
Yeah, and you can see why people come and support him. He's good. We mentioned it earlier. Denis Denikaev against Matthew King for the Southern Area super lightweight title.
That's the last fight on the card. Matthew King, who's fought for titles before welterweight, now drops down to super lightweight. That's his more natural weight and feels that they fancy this in a big way. Denis, obviously, he was English champion. He came off a loss, obviously, to Mikey Saki, got caught. But the English title side of things is pretty frozen up. So rather than Denis do a tick over, he's decided to go back and try and become a 2-time Southern Area champion, which is the right thing for him to do. There's no point in having tick overs. He wants to get back in the mix at a higher level. So he's got to get rid of Matthew King if he's going to do that. Again, great fight. Matthew King will bring some support down from Portsmouth. You know, he's coming to win. And I rate Denis. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping and I believe he'll become a 2-weight champion.
And you know what? Denis, you've spoken highly of him since his debut. He always seems to be in hard fights now. Like there's never anything that's sort of an easy tick over fight for him. It's always in tough competitive fights. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
He doesn't want easy fights. He's developing, and when he comes back up to title level, he wants to be winning it and moving on to bigger and better things. So he's doing it the hard way.
Yeah. One of my favourite fights on the card, but I've got several. Bilal Fawaz against Ryan Amos. That's a cracker.
That's an unbelievable fight. I've had quite a few well-respected judges ring me up and say they really fancy Ryan Amos for this. It's a tough fight. Now look, Bilal is his story is quite well known. He had to turn boxing late. He couldn't get a license. He couldn't get citizenship, and so he's at a stage of his life where he's got to move quickly now. He's won the Southern Area at middleweight. We've got him in a final eliminator for the English at super welterweight. You've got to have a fight now. There's no way that if you were trying to pick the weakest opponent for him, it wouldn't be Ryan Amos. Ryan Amos is decent. By the way, Bilal is super talented, but it's a proper fight. But he's got to have these fights now. He wants to get onto to become on a TV platform. You've got to have these fights to get him there. So this is what it's about. He's got to see whether he can make that next push on the next level up towards a TV platform. And if he wins this, then his next fight should be hopefully on a TV platform against the winner of which probably will be Junaid Bostan, who's very decent again. But Bilal really wants that fight, so he's got to get through Ryan Amos to get it.
Yeah, it's not a walkover by any means. Ryan Amos is super tough and talented, and yeah, good fighter. Next one is one of my other favourite fights on the card, because to me it feels like a fight neither man had to take, whatever you want to call it, Frankie Storey versus Lewis Frimpong. In that you've got Frankie, who's 9-0, undefeated, against Lewis Frimpong, who's 8-1, just lost for the English title. For a Southern Area super bantamweight title now, English eliminator.
No, it's a final eliminator. It's final eliminator, so the winner gets a crack at the English title.
Yeah. I say, to me, it feels like there would be a time where these two would be navigated away from one another at this stage, but instead they're fighting for ultimately a Southern Area title with that promise of the English fight on the back.
The bottom line was for Frank, when I tried to negotiate this fight, for Lewis, he's not the youngest. He's still got a lot of fire in his belly. He needs a proper fight. He needs to propel himself back quickly. He went away for his English title the defeat, and you could argue that if he had that at home, so it might have been a different result. Who knows? Frankie Storey wanted an elevation to the English title, so they've only taken it because it's a final eliminator for the English. The Southern Area was thrown in once we got the final eliminator status. So for both of them, it's a propelling fight. But for one of them, it's the jackpot. For the other, it's I think Lewis is make or break. He can't afford to lose again. He needs to win this fight for a career in boxing. Frankie can probably rebuild and come again. But overall, it's just an amazing fight. You've got the silky southpaw skills of Frankie Storey against the relentless pressure of Lewis Frimpong. That's what you've got. It's going to make for an amazing fight.
Yeah, no, I genuinely cannot wait for that fight. I think it will be captivating.
Yeah.
George O'Leary, again, sort of feels like a fight that these two in any other circumstances wouldn't be fighting one another. But we've got George O'Leary, who's 5-0, against Constantine Williams, who's 6-1.
Yeah. So where this is about, it's a final eliminator for the Southern Area. We tried to get it upgraded to full status. The board wouldn't have it. Basically, Jermaine or Constantine lost to Paul Gordon in his last fight for the title. Basically, it's two fighters that are not the biggest ticket sellers in the world that come together because they can both make money out of the fight, and the winner goes on and has a shot at the title. It makes sense for both of them. Rather than carrying on fighting journeyman and just having to keep selling tickets. A lot of the stuff is about selling tickets, but if you struggle to sell tickets, as a manager, you've got to say to the boxers, well, here's a path where you're not financially finding it too difficult to box. So you've got to try and create a path around that. So this fight makes perfect sense for both of them. That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, I love that. We were chatting off camera about a piece of Curtis Woodhouse this week where he's talking about the sort of the challenges of being a small hall boxer and ticket sales and whether it's right or wrong. Um, Always have the view on it. Being a professional boxer is an option. You don't have to be a professional boxer. Um, you don't have to accept a ticket sales deal. You could go your own way if you think that's sort of if you're good enough. I appreciate it's an incredibly tough thing. Completely appreciate that. You know, as we were saying earlier, the son who just made his amateur debut, if he came to me and said, I want to be a small hall boxer, I'm not sure what my advice would be to him, but I'm not sure I'd sort of actively encourage it, if I'm honest. But there are those out there that have got that drive and determination and will to do it. If you're struggling with it, get two people together where you're not paying for the opponent, you're not paying for their travel, you're not paying for any of those things. You just get a really good fight like George O'Leary and Constantine Williams. That's what fans want to see, is those kind of fights. It's
Exactly that.
brilliant.
Exactly that.
Brilliant. And the last one then to preview is another of the ones I'm really looking forward to is Kingsley Egbunike against Tyrone King.
It's a proper fight. Now, Tyrone King has done quite a few tickets down in Kent, and the atmosphere is going to be great. And what you've got here is the experience and the ring craft of Obi Egbunike against the rawness of Tyrone King, who's coming from Kent and rolling the dice quite early in his career. I obviously manage Obi Egbunike, and I obviously think that he's going to win because I wouldn't have made, this is a voluntary defence, I wouldn't have made the fight if I didn't think he would win. But Tyrone King is no mug. And full credit to him, he's trained extremely hard. His manager's Joe Elford, he knows the time of day. They're coming to win. But it's a great fight. He's going to bring the heat. And Obi will try and bring the jab, the boxing skills, while Tyrone King brings the heat. It's a great fight to watch. Honestly, you're going to be sitting there on Saturday just watching fight after fight after fight with no boredom. No, it's just going to be exciting from the first minute until the last minute. It's just an amazing show on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there were certain fights in there. For instance, Frankie Storey, Lewis Frimpong. I'd be surprised if either man gets a stoppage in that fight. I can see it going the full 10 rounds. Sometimes when you sort of see ones where you think it's going to go a full 10 rounds, you think, yeah, I can kind of see how this is going to work out in advance. For none of these can I work out and see how it will go in advance. And maybe I'll be miles off. Maybe Frankie, maybe Lewis will go and get a stoppage out. I just see Frankie being slick, Lewis coming forward, the two of them just meshing really well. But through all of it, whether you can foresee a stoppage or not, they're just intriguing fights.
Exactly that. So it's going to be a great night. I mean, all those fights we've just spoken about, we just rattled through 8 fights. All of them have got angles. All of them are you can have an opinion about who's going to win. It's just brilliant. It's just a brilliant night of boxing. So I'm very proud that we've done this. We've helped to do it. Olivia's put a lot of it together, and I'm very proud of what's been achieved here with this card. It's not like, as you know, in the southern area, people claim a card of 50-50s. You look through it, and they're really not. This really is.
It is. It is. And it's a box mania. So we're going to have all the screens out. We have the lighting rigs up. I'm going to come down and do some commentary as well. I'll be there and hanging around.
It'll be a great night. Great night for everybody.
Yeah, I cannot wait. It'll be brilliant. So doors open at 5 o'clock Saturday, York Hall. First fight at 6. Titles started getting handed out from 6:45 onwards. It's going to be exceptional.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing. So moving on. Elsewhere in the world of Goodwin boxing, any updates on Brad Paul's?
First bid was due today. I've missed a call this evening. So I would imagine you've got Frank Warren's bidding for the fight and also Matron bidding for the fight on behalf of
Kieran Conway that is scheduled to.
But then Conway's due to fight in Japan. But I've heard that competition, I've heard that somebody told me that they're not sure that the funding's there. But I don't know why he'd be going for a British title if he's fighting McKenna for that. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, so the purse bid was due today. We haven't heard the result yet.
All right, we should find out. We should find out. Elsewhere in the world of
Lewis
boxing.
Oakford. Lewis Oakford.
Lewis Oakford, yes, of course. And Lewis, so because we discussed this before we recorded as well, so I forgot we weren't recording. Lewis Oakford fought on Saturday night for the Commonwealth Silver title. Tell us how you got on.
Well, he basically dominated and outclassed Devon Miller, who was highly regarded. He's a Mo Pryor managed fighter. Nielsen's promoting him. And obviously they were extremely confident they would win, but they were so wrong because basically Lewis, without being disrespectful, took him to school. On one card, he won all 10 rounds. On another card, I think he won by 6 rounds, and another card by 4 rounds. But I couldn't get there Saturday. I was at 2 parties that I couldn't get out of, but I watched it the next day, and it was just a total outclass. He moved, caught Devon. Devon would come with the big punches. I think he hurt Lewis at one point in one of the rounds. But apart from that, he just got outboxed and outclassed. And it was a very, very impressive performance by Lewis Oakford. And hopefully we can get him on to bigger and better things. He's having a couple of weeks over in Thailand coming up. But then we're going to be looking for trying to get him another decent fight.
You've always rated Oakford. And he had his opportunity on TV that was horribly ended with the cut that occurred in a fight that he was well and truly in. He's now with Andy Gill as a trainer, so great start to his relationship with Andy. Andy's got Lewis out on Saturday as well. So we'll see him down there.
And Jamie Smith's returning in November from the same gym.
Okay, he's mentioned about him return. I didn't know that as a definite now.
He's definitely
Yes, no, that gym will be buzzing again now. But congratulations to Lewis. That's a great result against Devon Miller. And and thank you to Nielsen Boxing for having it as a free stream. Mark, I've put the comment in. You're more than welcome to come and talk to us about streaming. It's still a topic that I find fascinating.
I do too, but I've got to say, I watched it on Sunday. It was a good stream. It was professionally done. I mean, you're not going to get TV matchroom quality, but it was very good. I enjoyed watching it. I watched a couple of the other fights on the undercard. Great for me to watch it, and that's great. But there we go. But credit for them, and I thank them for putting it on because they put on a good fight there, and they put Lewis at top of the bill, and it was great. It was fantastic for him.
Yeah. So Mark, come and chat boxing. Come and chat. I like Mark Nielsen.
Nice guy. I know he's a good guy, Mark Nielsen's. I mean, I've only really met him once. We had one of his fighters on our show, and but he's a nice fellow, and they've got a good reputation in boxing. And we do a lot of business in working with them. They'll supply their journeyman to us. We'll supply our journeyman to them. And good luck to them. But yeah, Mark's always welcome to come on.
He always just seems like one of the very sensible people in boxing in a world that isn't particularly full of sensible people.
That's fair.
Yeah, he's a good businessman, from what I understand.
Yeah. Sure.
So we'll go on to a small event going on in Saudi Arabia in a minute. But while we're on the topic of Saudi Arabia, it's going to be my talking point for the week. And we can draw a comparison, perhaps, between what's going on this weekend. I'm not going to talk about Fury versus Usyk because that's, an incredible fight. And I think it's almost underappreciated how incredible that fight will be again. Because we've seen it once, because we've got the light heavyweight undisputed fight coming up this weekend. It's almost overlooked how good that fight was and how good it will be again. But they've announced the undercard for it this week, and I take great exception at the amount of people that are online that have some form of vested interest in this, whether it's because they're managing fighters or because they're media people that need to keep up good relations or whatever it may be, that are trying to oversell how good the undercard for this is. Because I don't know if I'm missing something. To me, it feels like it's sort of a good next-gen card underneath the main event. And I need to contextualise that by saying we've been utterly spoiled for the last 12 months. Utterly spoiled. Every card is ridiculous. Sort of go to that Wembley card. That entire lineup was stupidly good. This weekend, it's a ridiculously good undercard as well. but you sort of get all these star names added into undercards that could easily headline their own shows. So when you end up with an undercard that has sort of Isaac Lowley McGregor, Dennis McCann, Peter McGrail, Moses Atalma, Dempsey McKean, Johnny Fisher, Dave Allen, and Sergey Bohachuk against Israel Madrimov. None of them are bad fights particularly. They're
Bridge.
all they're all sort of good fights in some way or another, but it lacks that star power and that sort of gravitas that the other undercards have had. And that's my criticism of it. It's not even a criticism, it's an observation. It's not an exceptional undercard. It's just sort of like
The card this week is good, very good.
the card this week is amazing.
You've got to
With
say the undercard is very, very good this week.
yeah,
Um,
but
but
if you
that
want to
one
draw,
is not in the same vicinity as the one this week.
if you want to draw a comparison, that Fury one has no star power like Jai Opatai, like Chris Eubank Jr. has no big headline fight like Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark. It's got
Exactly.
no rising star with the profile of a Ben Whittaker. Um,
Although
and
I've got to say the Ben Whittaker fight um, and the Eubank fight, that I can't say I'm overwhelmed by that because that's just fodder for them, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, we'll come
they're
on to
not
them
good
in a minute, I
fights.
suppose. But it's sort of like having that star power on the cards. That's what the Fury one's missing to
I mean,
me.
you've got. I mean, if I want to try and if I want to try and look through it, the actual McCann McGrail fight would be a good fight. But the Bochuk Madrimov would be a good fight. Isaac Lowley McGregor, don't really buy into that. Moses Atalma will demolish Kent Dempsey McLean because Moses Atalma is the up and coming heavyweight, the superstar coming up. The Johnny Fisher David Allen fight, I'm really disappointed they're wheeling out David Allen again. I really am. I think that's really disappointing. But yeah, but what we're saying on the whole, it isn't that great. It's not what you expect to see. Now, if that was a card at Wembley Arena, you'd probably go, oh, that's a good card. That's a good card. It's only good
It's a
to
good
expect
next gen.
more. Yeah.
It's a good next. I mean, the Sergey Bohachuk versus Israel Madrimov. So that never end up on UK shores anyway. That's a US fight essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
But I think it's better than the next gen. I think it's better than the next gen, but it's not. You got Moses Atama, Johnny Fisher who's making waves. The McCann fight's decent. I do agree that's a US fight.
Johnny Fisher
What?
is moving. He's moving slower than an iceberg through his
Yeah, I
career.
know. I do, but
Um,
what I do agree with you is the amount of people on Twitter that I've seen praising this as being an amazing card. That's just rubbish.
that's my issue.
That's
And
rubbish.
I'm
Don't
not
don't
saying
try to
it's
praise
bad.
something. It's not that. It's not amazing. You could just say it's all about the main event. There's an undercard there. Moses Atama's on it. A couple of other decent fights on it. That's it. If you said that, you'd accept it. But to try and portray it as being an amazing undercard is ridiculous. It's
And
ridiculous.
I think it was Sam Jones. And I apologise, Sam, if it's not, but I think it was Sam that had written that every single one of those undercard fights could main event a card. And I thought,
Ronnie Fisher,
well,
David Allen, main eventing. It'd main event a very poor card.
yeah, this was almost my point is that, do you know what? Maybe you're right. But that's more of a reflection on the state of domestic UK televised boxing rather than a reflection on how good each of these fights is. Um, because you know, would you really be? I wouldn't be tuning in to Isaac Lowley McGregor. That screams Friday night Channel 5 to me. Um,
Yes,
again, I don't hate the fight. I just wouldn't go out of my way to watch it particularly. But I do think it also, to me, it seems to show a shift in Saudi. A, away from spending ridiculous money, but B, towards building that next generation of fighters coming through. Because I sort of mentioned it before that it feels like they're just burning out that top level of stars. Fury, Usyk, Crawford. You know, they're going to go through them all very, very quickly, and they're all going to make great money and sort of be able to retire off. The Joshuas of this world. It looks to me like they're actually putting some investment into what do we do when they're not there anymore, and giving a home to a Dennis McCann, a Peter McGrail, a Moses Atalma, um, Lee McGregor. Even he's still a decent fighter.
yeah.
Madrimov, like all these ones, they're all good fighters. it's almost nice to see the next generation of fighters given the opportunity rather than burning through the headliners as undercards.
What you're trying to say, if any of these were headlining in the UK, apart from Usyk Fury, you wouldn't look at it and think, "Oh my God, I want to go." You wouldn't.
No,
Well, that would
no,
be fair. That would be fair. So, if, for example, Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley, which is undercard this week, if that was headlining, you'd think, "I'd like to go to watch that." And
I'd
even
go to Jai Appetite Jack Massey.
you'd like to watch that. Even and I say I'm not say even. I don't mean even. But the fight, the Sky Nicholson Raven Chapman, is a cracking fight. So, and I didn't mean that even because it was a woman. I was just saying that you some people that are not into women fight, but that's a proper fight. That even I'd like to watch that. The point is, they are different quality this week than in December. So don't try and pass off December as being this amazing undercard. It's not true.
No, and that's sort of where I'm at with it. Is that
Mm.
to to praise it to such high levels is to diminish how good the undercard, say, this weekend is. Because they're not comparable in any way whatsoever. So don't try and make them comparable just to make sure you get a press pass to the next event, just because your fighter's on it. It doesn't work for me. I don't like it.
Which is fair. Which is fair.
So we'll come on then to Saudi Arabia this weekend, which is an incredible card. I'm not here to have a go at Riyadh season. I'm not here to do anything like that because this weekend is ridiculous. So let's quickly run through what we've got. Ben Whittaker in his 9th fight taking on Liam Cameron. What do you make of that?
One-sided beatdown. I loved Ben Whittaker when he started. I'm now getting to the stage where I'm thinking, he might not be as good as people think he may be. I'm sort of getting a little bit of, not negativity, but thinking when he steps up in levels, he may get found out. And that's my sort of feeling. Of course, he's going to beat Liam Cameron. Liam is tough. He'll be the perfect foe. He'll put up a fight. Ben Whittaker will beat him up over rounds, get a late stoppage, or win on points. So it's a perfect foe for him. But I'm not so sure that Ben, and I like his showmanship, but I'm not so sure. I've got my doubts that when he steps up in levels at later in his career, that he will be as good as I thought he may be when we started. But that's just an opinion.
No, I agree. And I think the X factor that's missing seems to be power.
Exactly.
Yeah, and maybe he'll display it against Liam. If he could get an early stoppage against Liam, it'd answer some of that question.
But without power, you're going to lack at the highest level.
Oh, absolutely. And he almost sort of alluded to it himself in an interview I saw this week. He was saying about, Liam's tough and he's going to be in there, he's going to take me late. It's sort of like he lacked the confidence in himself to be able to think he's going to take these fighters out early, which seemed a bit odd to me. You mentioned it just then, Sky Nicholson against Raven Chapman.
A proper fight, that. It's a brilliant fight. A brilliant fight. And I mean, Raven's got a big chance now. I think Sky Nicholson's a worthy favourite, but it's a proper fight. It's a really good fight. And it doesn't matter whether it's male or female, what weight it is. If you're putting two people in there and it's a cracking fight, it's a cracking fight. And by the way, the Ben Whittaker fight is not a cracking fight, but this one is a cracking fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, Sky, again, somebody who gets sort of criticised for a lack of power, but I doubt she's lost a round really throughout her career. Raven Chapman come forward aggressive. She'll get in your face and she'll make life uncomfortable for Sky. I think Sky wins it. I think she'll win sort of, wide enough on points, but it's a great fight and a great introduction for women's boxing in Saudi Arabia.
I agree totally.
Eubank Jr. against Cam Mills. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm not going to try it. You mentioned it a minute ago. It's not a great fight, but it's a great name. And again, it goes back to what I was saying a minute ago about the other card. There isn't a Eubank Jr. draw and attraction to that other card. Eubank Jr. he could headline Wembley Arena himself with this fight because it's Eubank Jr.
But he doesn't sell. Eubank Jr. does not put bums on seats in venues. He puts viewing figures. He's good for viewing figures, but he doesn't put bums on seats in venues. They don't sell out with him. Unless he's got a really good dance partner. The question with him though is really, he did the thing about promoters all being scumbags and blaming everybody else, but his career is stalling. He chooses You know, it's okay saying I was in a slavery contract, right? Now I'm going to deal with this. You signed the contract. You've got advisors. You've got lawyers. You've got the same as I would have for my boxers. You know what you're signing. You've got enough experience around. If you are at that level and you're silly enough to have management lawyers that sign a slavery contract for you, whose fault is that? It's your fault. It means you haven't negotiated properly. So I can't have that. I just can't have that. So whether it was, I mean, listen, I've seen enough boxing contracts in my life, and I do accept that some are slavery contracts. I accept it. Just don't bloody sign it then. And then
Especially when you're Chris Eubank, who can go and sign a different one somewhere else.
correct. It's nonsense. It's just total nonsense. So you've got to question who you're. So you look within sometimes, right? Because a promoter's a businessman. He's going to try and sign a contract to the best of their ability. And where you are in your career will determine whether you have to sign something that's not that ideal because you've got no other option, or whether you can negotiate something that's favourable to you. You know,
Yep.
he's been out for a year. He's got to fight somebody that means something. There's no point keep bowling over these people. Go and have a proper fight. And you've got to say one thing. He lost to Liam Smith and he beat Liam Smith in the rematch. Liam Smith was rubbish in the rematch. Couldn't even fight properly, in my opinion. He was just useless. So he's got to go and beat somebody now. He lost obviously to Groves, lost to Billy Joe Saunders. He's got to go. He's getting older and older, and he's not having meaningful fights. He's got to go and have a meaningful fight.
It's always that thing about the next fight for Eubank. That's what it feels like. It's never really about the current one. Because you even go back to Liam Smith, it wasn't meaningful. It was intriguing, but it wasn't meaningful.
I'm bored of him.
Yeah, see, I'm ashamed.
Unless he goes and fights Ben Whittaker or something, or does something that matters, I'm bored. I'm just bored with it.
Fight Canelo, fight Crawford, fight Whittaker.
Fight somebody.
Something like that.
Fight somebody.
It's very difficult to stay on board. But I am an unashamed fan, so I will. One of the best heavyweight fights in recent memory, Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark. Amazing to have that on an undercard.
Now, this again is what we're talking about, a proper undercard. Don't try and sell me December when you got fights like this on here. It's just, I mean, you know, and I know that would sell out. That would probably sell out the O2.
Yep.
That's a proper fight. So,
yep.
A great fight to watch. People have different opinions on who's going to win. I just think it's a great fight once again. Fantastic fight. So may the best man win. You've got it was so close last time, wasn't it? And it was so close.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to pick a winner, really. And again, it comes back to everything that was discussed in the first fight. Either the ruggedness and the strength and the power of Fabio, or the slightly more slick skills of Fraser Clark. Either way, it promises to be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we've got Jaya Pattaya, Jack Massey. Good.
Jaya Pattaya. He's on a tour of just beating the shit out of British cruiserweights.
He's gonna beat Jack Massey. It's just how he does it. But he's a fantastic fighter. Fantastic fighter. Probably the best cruiserweight the world has seen after Usyk. He just will walk through all the cruiserweights, in my opinion, as it stands. He's a great fighter. Jack Massey will give it a go, and I'm sure he's getting very well paid. So good luck to him. I hope it sets his family up for life. But he's going to be on the receiving end, obviously, from Pattaya. But great to see, again, what you say about this is, yes, he's got one side, but Pattaya is something to watch. Whereas in that December card, we haven't got Isaac Lowe against Lee McGregor. It's not a fight. Joe Pattaya, you want to see. You know he's going to beat Jack Massey, but you do want to see him. And that's
if you put Jaya Pattaya against Jack Massey at Wembley Arena with a decent enough undercard, you'd sell Wembley Arena out, no problem.
Yeah,
because he's a spectacle. He's a ridiculously good fighter. It's not his fault that he's sort of gone through all the cruiserweights. He's fought Bradis twice, really tough, close fights. And it's not that this fight is bad. I don't know what other cruiserweight like Jack Massey's got as much right as anyone else to be fighting him. I just don't think he's got a chance of winning.
Totally agree.
Because Jai's on a different level.
It's a really good card. It's a really, really good card.
Yeah. And then you come on to Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol. As if all of that wasn't enough, you get Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry. that's what I mean about the December one. Is like you don't feel like you're full of boxing after all that. And with this, I'm like, that is a card on its own. Oh, and you've also got the undisputed like heavyweight title. Um, who you picking? Like out of the two, who you going for?
Gotta go Bivol.
I'd go Beterbiev, but
But you can't do with any confidence.
no, of course not.
I mean, I think Beterbiev's like a wrecking machine, but Bivol has got that boxing skill set. He's got to get through the first 5 or 6, and then I think he showed against Canelo that he can tough it out. I think Beterbiev, it's all about getting through those early rounds and not suffering any facial damage or body damage. And if he can get himself ahead on the cards, maybe after 5 rounds, be 3-1 up or something like that, and 1 draw, or 4-2 up after 6. I think he can win it.
Yeah. Shout out to Callum Johnson. We forget how well Callum Johnson did against Artur Beterbiev. I didn't appreciate at the time putting him on his arse.
Exactly.
That was a hell of an achievement. That firefight he had with him. Yeah. But yeah, just an incredible fight. There's very little point really in trying to pick a winner because who are we to pick out of those two? But just an incredible card for Saturday night. Almost as good as York Hall.
But there's no substitute for live boxing. You know that. You can watch boxing on television. There's no substitute for the atmosphere of live boxing, especially at York Hall when you've got fights like this on Saturday. You don't go to York Hall and start at 6:45 with Bilal Fawaz against Ryan Amos at 6:45 and think, oh my God, this is an amazing fight. And the fights start at 6:45 with the first title fight. You just don't get that at York Hall. We don't get that in small law boxing. That's the top of the bill fight on its own.
They ought to be pumping in the York Hall atmosphere to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Makes actual noise out there with it.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So you want an atmosphere, York Hall's the place to be on Saturday.
Yeah, 100%. Right, Steve, that'll do us. We've been here long enough. I'll see you in a few days down at York Hall. I look forward to it.
Good. You look forward to it, my friend. And we'll be back next week to reflect on both of these cards, plus talk about what's being set up for other Goodwin boxers.
Can't wait. Excellent.
All right, my friend.
Thank you very much, Steve. You take care.
Take care. Cheers. See you later.
Bye-bye.